The start of the season will now be on 12th of September. How pleasing is it to have that date now set?
It's a date to work to. We do expect we'll get a couple of cup fixtures before that date as well. So the players are back in next Thursday. So they're in from the 6th of August onwards. And we've got a pretty hectic pre-season schedule. But like I say, towards the end of August and the start of September, we do expect to possibly have a Carabao fixture and a Leasing Trophy fixture as well. That's yet to be confirmed, but that's what we're working to. So the players will have the usual 4.5, 5 weeks of hard work and hard graft and a lot of physical work. But we're in a good position because obviously they had that chunk where they were began training in May really on their own, and then obviously had the month of June training back at the training ground, and we really had 3 games within that and a couple of practice games as well. So they won't have lost too much fitness in the month of July. Well, I hope they've not lost too much fitness, depending on how they've been looking after themselves, but they needed that mental and physical break. I'm sure they'll be raring to go when we get back next week.
Yeah, because you mentioned the players obviously came back for the playoffs. We've seen sort of like a few other teams already begin pre-season training, but from your perspective, I suppose the players have got a better base fitness, and it's about looking after the players and giving them the time off so that they come back in next week.
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, look, a lot of the clubs who weren't involved in the playoffs haven't kicked a ball since the middle of March, and that is a long period of time not to be playing football or not to be working towards the aspect of games to come. So our players were slightly different. Look, the way May and June went, it was such a short period of time, and we had to cram a lot of work in there. The lads worked so hard. So it was the right thing to do to give them as much time off as we possibly could. Mentally and physically, they needed to rest. There was some tired bodies and some mentally drained moments in terms of the playoffs. And the players need to recover from that. But like I say, they've not been able to go abroad, or the majority of them haven't been able to go abroad. So once they've been to see family in England and the local areas, there's not too much you can do in your time off. So I think speaking to some of the players, and obviously some of them have started to use the training ground again in terms of individual sessions, they're looking forward to coming back. Boredom's an incredible thing, and boredom in lockdown is something which we've got to understand a little bit better than we have done. And players want to play football, so they're raring to go. They'll start a program. Well, they started a program yesterday, a home program, so to speak, where they do the first week of pre-season at home and get some physical work in the legs, and then we get them from next Thursday. But we've got games from the 15th onwards, so games straight away in August.
In terms of pre-season, we know your pre-seasons are quite tough and physically draining, and I suppose it's going to be no different this time round.
What, mine personally, or the clubs?
The clubs, yeah. Sorry, the clubs, yeah.
Yeah, well, it depends. It depends how you speak to the players and what the players say. Because unfortunately, you've got to work hard in pre-season because it prepares you for the season ahead. This season is going to be slightly different because for the first 3 months, we do expect there to be 3 games a week. So the fitness of all players in the squad is going to be absolutely key. Not just the ones who start on the first day of the season. It's going to be the ones who are fit and able to play consistently for a long period of time and under the stress and pressure of 3 games a week. So it's such an important time. I might be a little bit old school in terms of getting you working early, but I think it showed in the last couple of seasons we've generally started pretty well. We're a fit team in terms of the way we play. We're a fit team in terms of the league. And that always holds us in good stead. I was really pleased with our injury record last season in terms of muscle injuries. We obviously got the impact injuries and the ones we can't avoid, but in terms of the injury record for muscle strains and tears and pulls, it was the best it's been for a number of seasons last season at Exeter City. And that's probably down to the work that the physios and the S&C coach Connor has been doing. The lads do pre-app every day before training, obviously gym sessions as well. And that combined with the pressures and the demands we put them on a daily basis in terms of training, it put them in a really good position last season.
What is the plan looking like in terms of pre-season matches?
In terms of matches, so we've got the first game on the 15th. Obviously, unfortunately, I must say that they will all be behind closed doors. It's a real shame because we try and balance pre-season. We try and balance it in a way where if we can't get a nice trip away for the fans to go to, obviously we had Jersey last year. The club have been on some fantastic trips in the past. We try and keep the games as local as we can, so our fans can come and watch us, and it helps the non-league teams in the area. We always try and get one game at the park as well, so that the fans can see the new signings or the new team before the season. But that's not possible this season, so quite a packed schedule. Not too much time for the players to not touch the balls. They're going to come in and do ball work straight away on the basis that they've got a foundation fitness in their legs and in their bodies already. And we're looking to look forward to what pre-season brings. A slightly different dynamic to the group. Obviously, we lost a sizable chunk of players in terms of 9 players, the 8 contracted players, and Jayden Richardson in terms of the 9th. So we've lost a big chunk, and amongst that was quite an experienced group. So we're really looking forward to the opportunity that pre-season brings for the younger players to stake a claim.
How is it looking in terms of player recruitment in pre-season, and what areas are you looking to strengthen the squad?
Well, on the back of the majority of players who left and departed the club being defensive players, it's certainly the back line which we're looking to strengthen as our priority. We're close, and we've sent out 2 contracts which have been agreed verbally, but not signed as yet. So we're really pleased that if they get over the line in the next few days, we'll have something to feed back to the fans and obviously the press as well. And hopefully those 2 players will be available to start next Thursday in terms of pre-season, bearing in mind they've got a medical to pass and a few more details to finish off. And they're both defensive positions, so that should just boost and bolster that back line to a certain extent. But also we've got the 3 young boys, the under-18s who've signed professional contracts. Now I don't expect them to feature in the first team, but they will be training with first team. So in terms of squad size, we're not too in such a difficult position, but we do need to strengthen in certain areas. If we get those 2 players signed, it'll all depend on finances and any money coming into the club. There's various ways money can come into the club and cash flow can improve, but until that happens, our hands are tied to a certain extent, and we've got to be patient in terms of what's to come. The club's still in a precarious situation on the back of the COVID situation, and that's something which we're keeping an eye on. There's some worrying spikes not only across Europe but also in England as well. So we've got to be mindful of that and how that affects the fans coming back into the ground, which is our main source of income. But also player sales. I'm sure everyone's watching the playoffs in the Championship with a sharp focus in terms of how Ollie's doing. It was great to see him progress and him scoring that second leg as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. And obviously we've got some good young players who are in demand as well. So it can change pretty quickly. In terms of the way the window's been, people will say it's been a slow window, but as far as I'm concerned, the top players in lower league football have got contracts signed off already. So if you're in that top bracket of group who are basically on the list of every manager in lower league football, then you were still able to demand a strong financial package, and you had a strong contract offer behind that as well. So we've got to understand where we are in terms of that reckoning, but also we've got to understand what we need in terms of the balance of our team.
And you mentioned Ollie Watkins and the Championship playoff semi-final. Obviously Matt Grimes in that as well, and I suppose when the youngsters look at the opportunity in front of them, obviously at one point Ollie Watkins and Matt Grimes were breaking into the first team and given a chance and really and took that. And I suppose that's the inspiration for the youngsters coming through to if they get their chance this season, they can look at Ollie Watkins and Matt Grimes. Exeter's got a great record of producing these young players, hasn't it?
Yeah, without a doubt. Great to see them both involved in high quality football matches, and probably both being standout players for their respective teams this season. And that always bodes well for our reputation as a football club, but also the grounding they had. The young players need to step up this season. I'm really excited about seeing how this young group do. They had a really strong 23s campaign last season, which was cut short. I think we were due to play Newcastle in one of the rounds of the Premier League Cup. And the majority of them featured in the Leasing Trophy run as well. But doing it on 3 times a week in lower league football and in League Two is a different animal. And I'm really excited. Jack Sparks did it for half a season before his knee injury on Boxing Day. But he needs to play consistently in a team which is going to be challenging, and a team which is hopefully going to be performing well. He needs to do that consistently throughout the season. Archie's done it now for a number of seasons. We're excited about Joel Randall and Ben Seymour. But then there's probably a group who haven't played as much within the first team environment in terms of league fixtures. But the likes of Will Dean, Harry Kite, Alex Hart, Josh Key, Jordan Dyer, that's a really good group coming through, and we'll need to use them at times. They'll certainly get their opportunity. But I've said time and time again, young players can only perform alongside senior players and alongside good professionals. Now, I know we've lost a big chunk of those senior professionals and players which our younger boys can look up to, but it's so important. When you're a young player and you're in the heat of battle, you need someone alongside you can rely on. So that's why we've got to get our signings absolutely right. And then some of the players who are remaining, the contracted players, have really got to step up in terms of leadership roles this season.
One game that springs to mind in terms of that answer is obviously the Portsmouth game, and one of the most exciting games of the season. But within that young squad, you had the likes of Gary Warren, Jake Taylor, and some of the senior pros helping them along, didn't you? And it was a really standout performance.
Yeah, we had a strong spine that day. I think Gary Warren, Tom Parks played, Jake Taylor, Nicky Lowe, Lee Martin, Alex Fisher. So like I say, you've got to get the balance right. You can't throw all the kids in at once and expect them to perform well. And they'll have highs and lows. And that's one thing I've got to reiterate in terms of the fans' expectations this year. You've got to be patient with young players, but we've got a good group coming through. And an exciting group as well. And then they will certainly get their opportunity because the squad will be stretched. And if they can perform anything like they did in that leasing trophy run last season, it's a season to look forward to and want to certainly get excited about. And hopefully they'll perform well for us. But we've got to be honest in terms of what we are. We are a selling club as well. You spoke about Matt Grimes and Ollie Watkins. In terms of balancing their books and getting income into this football club, it's important they get their opportunity. It's important they perform, and it's important they go on to bigger and better things and hopefully bring some value back into the club.
Just looking at the youngsters, perhaps underneath that 23 group, the first year pros and perhaps some of the second year pros, will you be looking at loaning some of those out into the non-league clubs to get experience as well?
Yeah, that's the plan. We've agreed a few loans in principle, certainly for the group who've just come from the 18s and Noah as well. We've agreed loans in principle. There has been uncertainty in regards to when the non-league season starts. We're expecting it now to be early on in October, so almost a month after our season begins. So it might look slightly different, and that might depend on what's happening with obviously the COVID situation as well. So we're talking about financial restrictions at our level. I can guarantee it affects the non-league clubs as well. But we've got great relationships with the non-league clubs in the local area. But also from my point of view as first team manager, I need a lot of players available and available to play. Like I just spoke about, the 3 games a week scenario is one where you can quickly pick up injuries, suspensions or loss of form, and then you need your whole squad available. And the players are out on loan, you can't keep pulling them back and forth for one game at a time. So we've got to, I use that word balance all the time, we've got to work it out. We've got to work out who's going to be featuring within the first team environment, and the younger ones who probably aren't close enough to that, they need to keep progressing and keep developing, and they'll only do that by playing football and playing men's football as well. It's something I've spoke about time and time again. So it's important they go out there and get their experience.
Do you expect next season to be tough in terms of that 3 games a week, pretty much right the way through? Because I don't think there's a lot of leeway the tail end of the season, obviously with the European Championships. European Championships coming in.
Yeah, well, look, you've got to get the fixtures in. We can't complain about it. There's nothing we can do. We just got to understand it and understand what it will bring off the back of it. It's probably uncharted territory when you're asking players to play for so many games in such a quick succession. Usually you get not a backlog of fixtures, but your busier times are around Christmas and the New Year, and it's when the pitches are in a difficult position really, but we expect a lot of games at the start of the season and a lot of games at the end of the season. If it quietens down in the middle, that might be around the Christmas time. So we've got to wait and see. Who knows what difficult aspects that will bring in terms of the squad, but to get players playing at the peak, they have to be rested and recovered at certain times, and they have to be able to spend some time on the training pitch as well. So it'll certainly be interesting. I'm certainly don't want to come across that I'm moaning about it, because I'm not. I'm really looking forward to it. And if we're going to say we're going to be a fit team this season, that will have to show in terms of those games played. But we've also got to be mindful of what the strains and the physical and mental demands it puts on footballers and everyone involved, and also the financial costs of continuing to play. If 2 of those 3 games a week are away from home, unfortunately the coach company bill will be quite a high one, the hotel bill will be quite a high one. So there's all different aspects you've got to look at in regards to that. And also when we're travelling to certain areas of the country, you don't know what their situation is with the COVID, if that area is open. So I know there's some northern towns been put back into lockdown. and we hope that doesn't happen in the southwest. But that could affect our preparation, our travel time, our fixtures, our scheduling. So a little bit of unknown. But like I say, we speak about that those young players, and if they feel they're fringe players and they're waiting for their opportunity, they have to ensure they are ready. And the same can be said for the senior pros as well.
How does it look going into pre-season training in terms of COVID and the testing? Is it similar to what it was like in the playoffs?
Well, no. At the moment, the communications we've got is a test before we return. So the lads will get tested on Tuesday, Wednesday next week. Obviously, they've all got to have negative tests before they can come back in on the Thursday. They'll get tested once in the middle of pre-season and then once before the competitive fixtures start. Now, we don't know as yet if that means the first league date, which is the 12th, or if it will mean those cup games that we've spoken about. So the third test, so to speak, we don't quite have a date for that as yet, but we've certainly got a date for the first two tests. I'm fingers crossed it doesn't affect us too much. Look, we had 3 positive tests and then 3 positive cases in terms of the players in the build up to the playoffs, and unfortunately when players miss a chunk of training, it means they've got to play catch up, and we couldn't quite get away with it within that playoff environment because it was a month of June where it was 3 games in quick succession, so we won't have to rush them back and put too much pressure on them, but you want to ensure that we are producing a safe environment and we're doing everything we can in terms of this environment. It will still be quite a different to what players are used to, and they'll still turn up as late as they possibly can, do a short pre-app session, then go straight on a training pitch, train, get straight in the cars and leave. They should only access the buildings at the training ground in terms of the toilets and the physio room if needed. The gym is off limits to a certain extent, and we'll try and move some equipment outside. We still can't provide food, we still can't wash kits. We still can't do analysis together as a team. So there's various things we've got to think about, and I'm sure those guidelines will change further down the line, hopefully, if the situation keeps improving. But it's certainly a different environment for the players to not to understand, but to encounter. And some players who haven't played in the playoffs and didn't have that section in terms of June last season, i.e. the new signings and the young players, won't have encountered it before. So we've got to make them feel safe, and we've got to make the staff feel safe as well, and keep providing an environment which produces the opportunity to improve as a footballer, also to keep your own health and your family's health as well.
Just finally, how much are you looking forward to next Thursday?
Well, it's the first day. I always look forward to the first day because you see how fit the boys are. I'm not sure they'll be looking forward to it as much. I certainly don't want a reputation as a manager who just produces difficult and hard and tough pre-seasons. But that's what pre-season is for, unfortunately. The players are a good set. Look, they do their work at home. And Connor and the physio staff have been excellent in terms of implementing programs for the players to do in their off-season or their downtime. And the players who've done those programs will be absolutely fine come next week. The ones who haven't done those programs will struggle and will be a little bit behind and will have to play catch-up. Like I say, it's a different... We almost had a mini pre-season before June and before the playoffs. This is a different pre-season. There's certainly no rush in relation to this, and it's very much a building pre-season. We've got 5 weeks to get these players fit, and they have to peak around the date of the 12th of September, as opposed to the first day back. And when we came back for the playoffs, they had to be fit from day one because we didn't have enough time to work on various aspects of the fitness. So that was our demands back in June. Players understand their bodies a little bit better now. And like I say, they've got to come back at a 67% position with a 30-40% leeway to improve, ready for the start of the season. But they'll only get there by working hard. We're obviously in the middle of a bit of a heat wave, which is brilliant at the moment. So I suggest they enjoy the last few days on the beach with their feet up. I look forward to seeing them next week.